In 1651, Britain placed the Navigation Acts on the 13 colonies so that the colonies could only trade with Britain. This allowed Britain to be the only country able to benefit from colonial profits. This made colonists have a stronger desire for independence. The 7 Years' War, also known as the French and Indian War, was fought with England and the colonies on one side and France and the Native Americans on the other. This dispute was over control of the Ohio River Valley. In the end, England won and France surrendered all North American territories to them. As a result of this war, the colonists became more united. However, the British developed a lot of debt, which caused the colonists to be taxed more. After the British won the French and Indian War, France turned over all the land it had claimed in North America to the British. The colonists wanted to move westward over the Appalachian Mountains into the land previously controlled by France. But the British didn't want this, as it would cause the British to have to spend more money on defending the colonists from the Indian inhabiting this area. Britain was also already in debt because of the French and Indian War, and they didn't want to increase their spending more. They set up the proclamation line saying that the colonists couldn't pass the line, preventing the colonists from moving westward. This frustrated the colonists as they wanted to expand westward, where there was more land that was easy to farm. The debt that had accumulated from fighting the war left the British economy struggling. The Sugar Acts were taxes put on imported goods and luxury items such as sugar in order to help rebuild the British economy. This frustrated the colonists as they felt they were being unfairly taxed. In an attempt to help raise money to pay off the debt caused by the French and Indian War, the British set up the Stamp Act, which put a tax on all paper goods. Playing cards, letters, and newspapers were some of the items that were taxed. Additionally, all official stamps were required to have an official stamp on them showing that they were legitimate. This stamp was also taxed. This led to the colonists to boycott British-made goods. The Sons of Liberty was a group of mostly non-violent protesters based in New England and Boston. They often taunted and imitated those whom they felt were unjustly treating the colonists. There were, however, instances of tar and feathering of British officials. The British then put in the Quartering Act, which required the colonies to house and feed British soldiers. This act led to later development of the Third Amendment. The Quartering Act also caused many colonists to become unhappy with the British Crown as they felt this was unjust. In the Declaratory Act, Britain says that they have the right to govern the colonies the way they want and tax them the way they want. The colonists were initially okay with this, but there still remained the problem of debt left over from the French and Indian War. This led to taxing the colonies more and more. Next, the Townshend Acts were put into act. These were a series of different laws. Britain thought that the colonists were upset that domestic goods were being taxed, but in reality, they didn't want to be taxed at all. The colonists were being taxed on tea, paint, sugar, glass, and lead. These goods had to be imported from England because of the Navigation Acts. Another act was the Writs of Assistance, which opened search warrants for British agents. With this act, Britain could search homes for smuggled goods. This is one of the reasons the Fourth Amendment, no unwanted searches and seizures, was written. As tensions grew in Boston between the colonists and English, troops were sent to help maintain stability in the area. One night, a group of protesters gathered and started harassing the troops. The protest turned violent as the colonists threw rocks and snowballs at the soldiers. The soldiers then turned and fired on the colonists, killing 5 colonists and injuring 6 others. This was seen as the spark of the revolution, as it caused lots of unrest and allowed for the painting of a picture in which the British are terrible menaces. After the Boston Massacre, members of the Sons of Liberty dressed up as Native Americans and boarded a British East India Company ship. They threw nearly $3 million worth of tea into the Boston harbor. This made England angry with the colonists. They decided to shut the harbor down until all $3 million had been paid back. This led to the boycotting of more British goods and lots of unrest in Boston. The First Continental Congress was called together to decide what they could do against the new taxes and restrictions put in place. All colonies sent a representative, except Georgia, who had a strong tie to Britain. The group decided to keep boycotting British goods and agreed to meet again in 1 year if nothing happened.